It's pro stock time in Drag 96. Preseason testing at Bakersfield saw the return of the Dodge Boys. After being outrun by several rent-a-cars and a hopped-up golf cart, they headed back to Wayne County Speed Shop with their tail between their legs. The big story of 95 turned out to be the non-story of 96.
Opening up in the Chief Auto Parts Winter Nationals, Warren Johnson, new look Pontiac. Pontiac, the official car of NHRA. The car of choice for Warren Johnson. The GM Performance Parts entry goes and qualifies number 1, 701-196. The 17th time in the last 22 races, WJ was number 1.
But he could not parlay that past the semifinal round. The learning curve a little too steep with this brand new Pontiac, and it was Jim Yates putting away Warren with a 706.
First of many times in Drag 96 we would see that meeting in Pro Stock. Jim Yates goes to the final against Billy Huff, running another Dick Maskin motor, team cars per se, and Jim Yates gets the first win of the 96 season en route to the championship.
There's a whole lot of people in the pits, even in the stands, and we'll say that Billy Huff laid down for Yates, but Yates won at 704-195, so I guess it's academic.
Jerry Bickle, Dick Maskin, chassis and engine builders respectively. Look at Yates atop the leaderboard. Billy Huff, WJ, Chuck Harris, Steve Schmidt wound out the top 5, but there's a lot of racing to go.
Ooh, you bet. Our next stop on the NHRA Winston Tour, the ATSCO Nationals, Phoenix, Arizona. Warren Johnson versus Tom Martino. Martino sharp, one of the best competition eliminator drivers ever. This was in qualifying. Remember, Warren qualified on the pole at Pomona. Can he do it again? Yes, he could. 704-195, the best mark we saw during qualifying at Phoenix. But come first round, Warren was out of here.
That was the first time since Englishtown 95 that Warren went out in the opening round. This is round 1. It's Huff, it's Yates, rematch of Pomona. End result, same thing. Yates gets the win. Huff in a huff, leaves the Maskin camp, decides to go pro stock racing on his own.
Tom Martino versus Ray Franks in the semifinals. Terrific pro stock competition. It is Martino at a 714 to a 717. Martino all year long would cut that tree down the side.
That's what you do when you hone your skills in comp eliminator. Besides the fact he's from New Jersey. Thought now would be a good time to work that in. He's out in front of Yates, not for long. Gave it one of these jobs, had the wigglies. Yates has the gigglies. He is 2 for 2. And so are Bickle, Maskin, and Tony Yates, Jim's wife.
For the first time ever, Jim Yates has won 2 in a row. Pomona and now Phoenix, the P races.
How sweet it is. I'm going to tell you, that's great. That's absolutely fantastic.
Nice, 705. That was consistently the number he wanted to run.
The P races. Can you say that on TV? Oh, that's Diamond P. I get it. Yates, Harris, Martino, Franks, and there's that Huff boy in the number 5 slot.
That was Pomona and Phoenix, Bob. Pomona and Phoenix. Jim Yates, Tom Martino. Studying the time slip that tells the tale for both of them. And on we went to beautiful Gainesville, Florida. In round number 1, it was Warren Johnson, the GM Performance Parts Pontiac, up against Mike Edwards, who not only drives but also rents the John Kite Winnebago car.
Edwards, like Martino, a fugitive from the sportsman ranks. That's why he gets to be so quick on the line. Spanks the professor, it should be noted. Edwards was your 16th qualifier in the quickest pro stock field ever was here at Gainesville.
And for the second race in a row, Warren Johnson got to beat the traffic lost in round 1 via the hole shot.
Oldsmobiles here in the semis, far lane, Mama Rosa Pizza. Mark Osborne taking on Steve Schmidt here in the semis. Schmidt looking to serve notice that his engines, and his team will be tough in 96. Goes to the finals with a 706-196, the Dynagear car, in the championship round early in the year.
Good Jim Yates score the hat trick. With the lights on in Gainesville, his McDonald's Pontiac was in the far lane. Steve Schmidt in the near lane. Gambling is illegal in Gainesville, Florida. Schmidt tried it, got the red light, and Yates won his 3rd consecutive NHRA Winston event with a 702.
The McDonald's car patting that lead at the top of the board, looking for his first ever Winston championship. He had never won more than 1 race in a year. Here he is, the dominant single car. Schmidt within striking distance. Hey, Where's the professor? Has anybody seen the professor?
Jerry Bickle, the car builder. Tony Yates, could they carry that kind of performance into the Slick 50 Nationals in Houston? We're going to show ya. But first, here's George Marnell versus Mike Edwards in round one. Marnell, the red car, 4 lane, he's the one to watch. When you get out of the groove with a Pro Stock car, you gotta give it up.
Little flame comes out, fuel line came loose, had the brakes on while he was upside down. Kind of unusual, and I'm not sure that's really going to help slow you down, but I guess it's instinctive. Isn't that right, George?
I realized it was towards the end of the track, got real loose, just got away.
But the car is not all that badly damaged. I think a new rope and it may be okay, but he's fine, and that's the important thing.
I'm fine. Your neck's not hurt at all, right?
Not a bit.
If you didn't understand the beginning of that interview, he said, I'm going over here, my helmet.
Better that we didn't understand it. Semifinals, Yates. Yates has problems. Yates' streak will end at 3. Mike Edwards nails him with a 705 at 195.
Yates trying to become the first guy since Glidden in '79 to win 4 Pro Stock races in a row. Wouldn't happen. Instead, we would have a first-time winner. Not since Schmidt and Yates at Seattle in '94 did we have 2 guys in a Pro Stock final who had never won before. Mike Edwards in the far lane, the Emu farmer out of Oklahoma, former modified champion, climbs to the top of the peak and gets his first Pro Stock win.
Steve, I don't know what to say. I just got to give all this credit to good Lord Jesus, because without him, this day wouldn't be possible. So much to be thankful for.
What a parting shot, a 702.
I mean, it went a 702, but it moved around pretty good in that right-hand lane, but I just thank God for this win.
The first of many, I'm sure.
Thank you, Steve.
A fine young guy. Take a look at the points. Jim Yates, Ray Frank, Steve Schmidt, Mike Edwards, Tom Martino. Who would have thought? Warren, where are you?
Yeah, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
You were terrific.
Hey, that was great. That was great. Got it. That's good. That's all that hard work's for.
Needless to say, but I'll say it anyway, it meant a lot to Mike Edwards. We went Bob Fry to the Winston Select Invitational in Rockingham, and Mr. Edwards, Friday night qualifying, $10,000 for the #1 spot.
Watching Mike Edwards in his car and the sponsor, I'll never forget the immortal words of David Whammy. He said, "Thank God in Winnebago." Sounds like a great country song. He got the 10 grand and the #1 spot. Mike Edwards, at this point, next to Jim Yates, the hottest Pro Stock shooter in the field.
In the semifinals, it was Kurt Johnson, the Delco car in the near lane, his old man, the professor in the far lane. There was no points, no games, a flat-out drag race between father and son that saw WJ take it at 705, 194.
Well, you ask where he is, and there he is, coming alive with that Firebird, still having a little teething problems with the new car. It would be WJ in the far lane. Tom Martino looking for his first Pro Stock win on the '96 season. Would he get it? Nope. WJ punched him out with a 705, 195 miles an hour, and maybe, just maybe, WJ was back.
Warren, I think I figured it out. Don't qualify #1 and you win the car race.
That thought came across after first round. No, Steve, I'll tell you, we needed this win. Pontiac, GM Performance Parts, AC, Delco Battery, Goodyear. I mean, they're all part of this thing, the crew. I just had the joy of riding in this thing today. I mean, it was nice and smooth. I think we probably had low ETV every round. So we're getting a little bit of a handle on this thing, but it's because of the hard work of other people.
And you ripped him on the lights as well. Great job.
I ripped Tommy? Good grief.
Hey, not bad for a fat old truck driver.
Wrong guy.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, Warren got all the money, but it paid no points in Rockingham. Round 1 at the Fram Nationals in Atlanta up against Pete Williams. WJ, you better hurry. Williams puts him out again in the first round at 708 to a quicker 707. That really rubbed a little salt in the wound.
Yeah, here's that Edwards boy again against Jim Yates. By the way, we should tell you that Ricky Smith had qualified #1 here at this race. Jim Yates and Mike Edwards trying to see who gets into the championship round. Man, you can't keep Yates down very long. 703, 195, he continues to pour it on.
With Warren Johnson out, he had nothing else to do but help his son Kurt in the final round. He brought over a pair of carburetors, a little racing advice. But as it turned out, that isn't what won it. The reaction time of Kurt Johnson, brilliant driving. He didn't have the power, but he had the talent. A 7:06 beat a 7:03, just what Warren needed. Get Yates out a round early.
Move the kid, KJ, up into the number 5 spot. Still some interesting guys, Edwards, Franks, and Schmidt in the 2, 3, and 4 positions. And the crowd, as they say, goes wild.
The Pennzoil Nationals, Virginia Motorsports Park. The Dodges return since the debacle in testing at Bakersfield. Jeffrey On was in the near lane, qualifying alongside WJ.
You know, I'm just extremely ecstatic just to be here. I mean, sometimes you got to walk before you can run, and we did a lot of walking this weekend, but we plan on running in the future. And
in the interest of fair reporting, they did not do a lot of running the rest of 1996. Troy Coughlin did. He's driving the Jags mail order car in the far lane. Man, if you could buy these things that ran like that through mail order, Jags business would go through the roof. A little bit of driving job in the starting line doesn't hurt either, Steve.
Oh, no, and that's a Steve Schmidt motor. A lot of talent there. Talent here as well. Ricky Smith, the checkerboard car, the left-hander far lane up against Warren Johnson. This was the semifinals. Warren Johnson had the better reaction time. But it happened 2 races in a row. Warren wins in a whole shot. 7:02 to a 7 flat for Ricky Smith. Woo.
Maybe, just maybe, the professor's getting that Pontiac sorted out. It's Mike Edwards, the Winnebago Oldsmobile. It's Warren Johnson, the 3-time Winston champ. Of the 2, Warren Johnson's the only one who's winless on the year.
To have any shot at catching Jim Yates in the Winston points, Warren Johnson was in a must-win situation, and he was up to the task. A 7:01 at 196 miles an hour put away Mike Edwards.
Pro stock points, it's still Yates, but hey, Warren's on the same page. He's in the number 4 slot. Edwards, Schmidt, Martino wound out that top 5.
Well, if you're a Ford fan or a Bob Glidden fan, and the two are synonymous, you haven't had a lot to cheer for the past few years. Well, this was E-Town. The DuPont Automotive Finishes Pro Stock Challenge for $50,000, the final between WJ and the 10-time champion Glidden. WJ completely sideways, only masterful driving kept that car off the wall. Glidden won the $50,000.
Third time that he'd won the big bucks in the DuPont Pro Stock Challenge. Now could he double up? If he did, he's got 50 large waiting for him. In the second round, Chuck Harris, far lane, takes out the 10-time Winston champion. Is nothing sacred. Harris goes to the semifinals. Glidden goes home. Little header fire, not to worry.
But the final round maybe was inevitable. Jim Yates versus WJ. WJ far lane. A wonderful drag race, did you call it? Well, the electronic finish line judge and the starting line crew certainly could. It was Yates over WJ, a 7:13 to a 14.
And the points, and it's still Yates out in front. Would anybody be able to run him down here in 96? So far, Mike Edwards, the guy with the best shot. WJ really starting to close in. Super Bowl champ Joe Gibbs tells his boy in Pro Stock, go long, go long.
Columbus, Ohio, the Pontiac Excitement Nationals. We tried to run it one weekend, got completely rained out, came back the following Saturday. And this was WJ and KJ in round number 2. Problems for the youngster. The old man waltzes into round 3 with a 7:18 at 193. He would waltz in the final.
He would meet Chuck Harris, your number 1 qualifier. He had never won a Pro Stock championship before. All he's got to do here is beat the winningest Pro Stock or the 90s. Beat WJ, and he did it soundly. Wins it with a 7:16, 193 for his first ever.
The man from Massachusetts wins his first one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kerry Towdy from Pontiac has got the trophy, and he enjoys presenting it to a Firebird driver.
Your first one. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice job.
That Pontiac did the job.
Thank you.
You were right there. Where did you pass Warren on the racetrack?
Pretty quick, I think. Pretty quick. I mean, we've been having a real good weekend. I mean, I can't say enough about my whole crew. John and Draco, my crew chief, my son, everybody that's been here helping. I want to thank Jim Yates. I want to thank Jerry Bickle, and Dick Maskin for making that Maskin power. Because with the power, you wind up with this.
We're just the best Father's Day present a man could have.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Whoa, baby, WJ making a move. Don't look now, Jim Yates. You have got yourself a battle for the 1996 Winston Pro Stock Championship.
Yes.
Next stop, Memphis. Pennzoil Nationals, Winnebago car, Todd Patterson, far lane. Former NBA star, Larry Nance, near lane. Rough weekend for Nance. First, I tattooed him in a game of 1-on-1 basketball. We have film later on in the tape. Then he fails to qualify. Wasn't a great weekend either for Todd Patterson.
Yeah, well, the former only happened if he was wearing handcuffs. But Warren Johnson knew that he was rising in the point standings and wanted to get some more, the greedy guy that he is. In the semifinals, he was to get up against Ricky Smith. Remember the last time they met, Warren on a hole shot? Well, this time he didn't need a hole shot. A 720 was enough to do it. That's how thick the air was in Memphis and how hot it was. A 720 was a good pro stock elapsed time.
Good enough to put WJ in the finals for the 4th consecutive time. By the way, his son, Kurt Johnson, failed to make the field here at Memphis. WJ not only makes the field, he makes the winner's circle. Great drag race right there.
It's another win. It wasn't beating Jim or McDonald's or anything like that because they've been doing an excellent job, but we have to win on our own. It's not that we want anything given to us. We had to get our team together, and I think we finally came through this year.
In some ways, weren't you also racing Dick Maskin to build those motors?
Oh, Dick's been doing an excellent job. Without Richard Maskins, I don't think that program would exist. I mean, everybody acknowledges that. They've done an excellent job of putting a driver, engine builder, and a team together, and I think we're comparable to that.
Terrific performance. And you didn't even call him, what's his name?
Warren Johnson just telling it like it is. And so are we. WJ's made a chase out of a thing that looked like a rout just a couple of races ago.
WJ, underestimated for having a personality. Never underestimated is Jim Yates. At Topeka, Kansas, this was the semifinals against Troy Coughlin. And remember what Troy did to him earlier in the season.
Yates certainly did. Great move off the line. A lot of horsepower, and look at that. Couple of foul at the finish line, but the Mickey D's car wins it by a nose.
And who'd have thought Yates and WJ in the finals. And Warren still was in that I must beat Jim Yates situation. He was not that close in points. He had to get another 20 here. And bingo, he did just that with a 710 at 193 miles an hour.
I have to thank Jim for that, for trying to jack around on the lights because I'm running his new clutchless transmission. My hand accidentally shifted into second, so I have to put it back into neutral, back into first while he was jacking around on the starting line. But this GM Performance Parts Pontiac came through.
That's all kind of pro stock racing, and it always has been.
Yeah, that's part of the act. I mean, that keeps those fans in the stands, and I guess that's the bottom line, entertainment.
Yeah, he says that because he won. Would have been a different story had he lost.
He wouldn't have talked to me.
Captain of the blue team, meet the captain of the red team. You guys can call it in the air. Well, we're going up in the air. Here's another guy, as hard as it may be to believe, that I beat in 1-on-1 basketball. Tom Hammonds of the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, as hard as it might be to believe. An active basketball player up against Brad Klein in qualifying, about 6,700 feet up in the air. As tall as Tom Hammonds is, he sits in the back seat, if there were a back seat in a pro stock car, and he DNQ'd, unfortunately, at the mile highs.
180 miles an hour. Warren Johnson qualified at the mile highs, got punched out early in the program by Steve Schmidt. Schmidt would then meet the points leader, Jim Yates. Schmidt looking for his first win on the season. Nope. Yates gets the win, but by about that much. That's announcer talk for 8 thousandths.
Jim Yates, you cannot snap your fingers in 8 thousandths of a second, and that was what you won that race by.
Man, I tell you, it was close down there. You know, Steve's been running tough all afternoon, and we knew it was going to be a handful running him. You know, we've just been chasing this thing, but obviously the guys, Dick Maskin and the crew's got this McDonald's Dynamax Pontiac just running great out there.
Up in the air, down at sea level, doesn't make any difference. Yates is beating them all over the country.
And down at the far end came wife Tony with a full body block. There it was. Now, he was high in Denver. Let me tell you what, in Sonoma, he hit the lows. He got punted out first round by Mike Edwards. This was Edwards in the semis up against Chuck Harris. Each of these drivers had already won their first event of their careers in '96. It would be Edwards to the finals at 7:16, 194. And who, Mr. Basketball Star Fry, would he race in the final?
He would take on WJ. Starting line, it might look like a little delay of the game, but nope, they're both out of there, and WJ would get the win. He would cut that Jim Yates lead in half to 163 coming in. Yates now leads by 85 points. Edwards, Harris, Schmidt running 3, 4, and 5, but at this point, Steve, it looks like a two-car race.
Yates can hear WJ coming. We went to Seattle, and here's another example of why you just got to give up on a pro stock car unless you're Bob Glidden at E-Town. Terry Adams, upside down, into the fence, back on his wheels. He was a passenger.
We was under full power and was making a pretty good run, and basically the same thing happened to me. It happened to Barry Grant to the last run. It blew the oil pressure line off, and, you know, we're just kind of on our own after that.
We'll let you survey the damage. It's not too terrible.
Thanks.
Okay.
This is a quixotic sport. WJ, who cut the lead in half in the last race, bounced out in round 1 at Seattle. That left KJ to carry the family name into battle. He'd take on that Mike Edwards in the final, and how about that? Great drag race. Mike Edwards gets the win.
And you crew chief this car as well. That's incredible.
Yeah, I do, Steve. You know, there for a little while, I was concerned that I couldn't do both, but things was looking up, and hopefully I can keep it up the rest of the year.
2 wins. Great job.
Thanks, Steve.
Jim Yates still atop the leaderboard. In fact, he put some distance between himself and Warren Johnson in Seattle, even though he didn't win the race. Kurt Johnson, he didn't win the race either. Mike Edwards won his second in his rookie season. A week off, and then Brainerd, Minnesota. Warren Johnson country. This is where he was born and raised and began his racing career, was in Minnesota. Jim Yates came to town with his Paul Bunyan axe, and what a race the two had in the semis. They both run 7:13, but as you can see by the winning distance, Warren had a much better reaction time, 193 miles an hour.
WJ into the finals against Steve Schmidt, who hasn't won since the peak of 95. Could he do it here? Tough road to hoe. WJ loves this ballpark, and he goes right down the boulevard, gets the win. He runs 7:11.
Warren Johnson's mother had never been to the racetrack when he won.
Mom. You need to shut a word. Dang. Don't get so emotional. It's just one race.
I'm embarrassing you?
Huh?
No.
Yeah,
We had our Diamond P cameras there listening in as she whispered in his ear, try to leave on time next time. No, I'm only kidding. I'm teasing.
I didn't dare show myself because I don't know because I didn't want to break. Okay?
I never get excited.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I think that is so neat. A great look at a true champion.
Absolutely. Here we go. Indianapolis, Indiana, the biggest race of them all. Warren had won it 4 years in a row.
Almost hit the wall. Now time to go looking for Mom for a little consolation. The Pennzoil car gets the nod, goes into the next round, and WJ, who was making such a big move, stunned in round number 1 with mechanical problems.
He had broken a wheelie bar. His son, Kurt Johnson, the Delco car, black and yellow up against Jim Yates. Boy, Warren needed the kid to get it done. And he did, with yet another hole shot over Yates. His weak link, his Achilles heel, has been off the starting line in 09, beat in 08.
Folks, Slick 50 giving out $500 a pop if guys win on hole shots, never going broke in pro stock category in 96. Ricky Smith, KJ, finals, great drag race in Indianapolis. The Johnson family wins it again. This time it's Kurt Johnson. In the points battle, KJ moves into the number 4 slot. WJ did not help his championship chase at all here at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
At Maple Grove, you remember Bob's basketball buddy, Tom Hammonds? Well, in qualifying, he again was alongside Brad Klein, a huge crowd on hand, all lusting after Mr. Hammond's autograph. Remember, big, long, tall guys sit awkward in these cars and maybe have a different perspective. It was crunch time for Tom Hammond's. A once beautiful pro stock car was worse for wear.
But he will be back and race again if the Denver Nuggets let him. Jim Yates on the far side, George Marnell near lane, semifinals. Yates on the far side would put down the best run of the year. For the statisticians out there, how about a 694, 197 miles an hour, and that puppy can fly.
A new national record, and that meant a lot. He proved he had the performance, along with all the controversy.
He would have more than that. The performance, a lead off the starting line. Warren fires and falls back. The pro stock race ain't over till it's over. But for everybody but the McDonald's car, it is just about over.
This car has been running so good all day, you know, and we went up there against Warren, and I knew if I could run to 694, I figured Warren could run to 694. So, I mean, we were really uptight, believe it or not. I mean, we went up there, and I went in. I didn't want to play any games, and Warren doesn't play any games with me. And I went in first and put on a limiter, and he just took a long time to come in. And, man, when I seen yellow, I was gone. I seen a little bit of a move from Miss Bender, and then it was it. I mean, history. The car was so smooth out there. They've done a great job with this track.
I think he thanked everybody but you and I, Steve.
And he backed up the record, most importantly.
Yep, and that's a lot of points. A record's equal to one round win. And that really did put the Mickey D's car in good stead as they headed into Heartland Park, Topeka, a very fast track.
You know, he didn't get a lot of headlines, but Jerry Ekman in the Bensville car really had a pretty darn good season. He went a lot of rounds and ran very strongly. This was in the semis. Ekman was no match, though, for Jim Yates on this day. Yates is 704 at 195. The fuel cars run big numbers in Topeka, not the normally aspirated shape. A little bit of altitude going for you here.
In the final, it'll be Ray Franks in the near lane, running the Oldsmobile, taking on Jim Yates. Can Ray Franks do it? Nobody's done it in a while. Stop Yates? Nope. Jim Yates, 706. Franks a game effort at 709, but he's got nothing to show for it. And the crowd, well, you know the rest. Points later, Jim Yates just about ready to put this baby to bed. Edwards, Schmidt, Harris having great years.
But Jim Yates took that big, broad grin and his national record-holding performances to Dallas, Texas to try to clinch the title. And he could do it here in the very first round against Mark Powick. All he had to do was beat Powick, and his first Winston championship was put to bed.
Think he's going to do it, Steve?
He didn't red light, he didn't cross the center line, he didn't hit the wall. Yes! He's the champ. A 703 at 196. Sealed it away for Jim Yates. They were ecstatic. Jim Yates, a man who has worked his way to the top from bracket racing at his local track to Winston Pro Stock champion.
Well, I tell you, this is just great. You know, the team has worked so hard, and I just want to thank my sponsors, McDonald's, Pontiac, and Dynamax, Champion Shell, Interstate, Joe Gibbs Racing, my crew, Dick Maskins. They've worked really hard this year. My family, they stuck behind me. This is a great deal.
Arch Deluxes for everybody on the house. WJ, by the way, went out again in round one. His kids stayed around to the finals to see what he could do with Jim Yates. Nothing. Yates runs 7 flat, 196 and change. It is academic. He won the championship. He won the race. He has been the dominant single pro stock car this year.
So the title was settled as we moved into Southern California, the beautiful Pomona Raceway. Jim Yates had his check for $125,000. Actually, he got a little early in Dallas. And the final round, no Warren Johnson, no Jim Yates. It was Mike Edwards and Ricky Smith. Edwards with 2 wins under his belt already. At this race, he joined the 6-second club, and this win here would make him co-Rookie of the Year.
Yep. Identical 701s. Great driving job by Mike.
It just all came together in one day. I mean, you get in the 6-second club. I've been trying to do this all year long. I mean, everybody wants that. And to win a race, and when you get in the 6-second club, beating an ex-world champion, that just topped it off even more.
Congrats to the 96 Winston Pro Stock champ. He went wire to wire. There are the other guys in the top 5, and not a bad year also for Steve Schmidt, Harris, Martino Ekman, and there's that Bob Glidden again.
Thanks to this young man and a young woman you'll meet later on in the tape, the 1996 NHRA Winston Pro Stock motorcycle season was the best ever. And as always, Mr. Personality added a good degree of spice as well. That's Steve Johnson up against Matt Hines. This is qualifying at their first race of the year, Gainesville, Florida.
Matt Hines wasted no time in flashing that legendary Vance and Hines horsepower. He would qualify number 3. Pro Stock bikes in the very first race of the year would give us the quickest field ever in Pro Stock bike history. Most people figured SCHULTZ and Myers would duke it out for the title. SCHULTZ served notice right away that he was going to be a player all year long.
That is the Sunoco machine in the near lane. Not only did he snag the pole at Gainesville, but in record fashion, 7.386.
Wow. And Dave SCHULTZ, the Graco prepared motor scooter, would be a factor all season long. We have got Myers and Hines, Star Performance Parts, Vance and Hines, legends in the sport of pro stock motorcycle. One of them's going to bow out early, and look at that John Myers trying to defend his Winston championship. 745, 184. He'd go to the finals running well, but maybe not well enough to beat SCHULTZ.
And they ran true to form. The final under the lights was Dave SCHULTZ and John Myers. You're on board with Dave SCHULTZ. Woo! SCHULTZ train-linked Myers to win the first event of the year, a 7:45 at 179 miles an hour. He also walked away with the national record.
Down to Houston, next stop for the Pro Stock Scooters. Matt Hines in the far lane, only his second race of the season. What would he do in qualifying? He would wind up in the number 1 position.
And right on the edge of control was Matt Hines. Whoa!
Both bikes fighting the wind at the end of the racetrack. Hines qualified number 1, then actually scraped the wall at the top end of the quarter mile. SCHULTZ, Myers, semifinals. You can't let Dave SCHULTZ get too far out in front of you, especially if you're John Myers.
These riders make it look so easy. These machines are animals to ride. Body English plays a big part in control.
You could throw a blanket over the two of them. They're that close, and how about that? Myers evens things up with Dave SCHULTZ at just the second race of the season. Won the battle. Here's the war. John Smith in the finals. Smith out in front. Smith out in front. Not for long. Myers ran him down with a brilliant 7:47. 176 miles an hour in the points. It's going to be some fun.
Indeed, but look at rookie Matt Hines after 2 races in number 3, the veteran Paul Gass, followed by John Smith out of Minnesota. Yep, love that bike. It'll love you.
Fram Nationals, Atlanta, Georgia. That's SCHULTZ on the far lane. He has won this race 6 consecutive times. Pizza John Mafaro back on the tour again. Will try to stop him.
Pizza John was never in this one. Dave SCHULTZ all the way to go to the Final Four with a 7:48 at 179 miles an hour. Where were those 7:30s we saw in Gainesville? Come on, Davey.
As expected, John Myers, as good a battle as there is in any class. Warren Johnson, Jim Yates, John Force, anybody named Pedregon, SCHULTZ and Myers doesn't get a whole lot better, and this time it's Dave SCHULTZ wins this race for the 7th time. In finals here at this race, John Myers is 0 for 6.
But unlike some other seasons, the finals weren't ending with red lights, which so often happened, and to my way of thinking kind of tarnished it a little bit. For me it did anyway. Green light racing.
Pennzoil Nationals finals one more time. SCHULTZ and Myers. It would be John Myers holding on just the nose, gets the win. 7:42, almost 176, and he is extremely pleased. And so are George and Jackie Bryce, the proprietors of Star Performance Parts. They're going to make a run at the Winston title and champion, only 2 points. David SCHULTZ in the lead, Hines, Smith, and the veteran Paul Gass round out the top 5.
And as John Myers and crew well know, it is 20 points per round win. So he was less than 1 race away from catching Dave SCHULTZ in the points. We moved on to Englishtown, New Jersey.
You're on board with Dave SCHULTZ, and you will watch on the far side of the screen one of those nasty red lights that Steve was just talking about. John Myers fouls out. Dave Schultz gets the win. And what happens at the end of the racetrack is academic. The Great Coat prepared, Sunoco sponsored, Dave Schultz driven machine continues on the top of the points. Now he's starting to stretch it out. Rick Ward, a good performance at E-Town, moved into the top 5 for the first time in '96.
Columbus, Ohio, the Pontiac Excitement Nationals. It was a pair of Suzukis providing the excitement in Pro Stock Motorcycle. John Myers versus Hines in the semifinals, and Myers, the veteran, red lights. What was I said about? Oh, never mind.
I believe it's your fault, Steve.
Matt Hines goes to his first ever final round.
Running out of the legendary Vance and Hines Stabler's got a lot of horsepower, not a lot of experience. He would need both if he wants to beat this guy, Dave Schultz, the Sunoco rider, into the championship finals. And guess what? Another red light start. Matt Hines out of here. Dave Schultz in the winner's circle, in the lead, and seemingly in command in Pro Stock Bike.
Well, certainly on the leaderboard, he appeared to be in command as Dave Schultz continued to sneak away from John Myers. He now had a 61-point lead for about 3 rounds of racing. The rookie Matt Hines solidly in the 3rd slot. We went to Denver, and guess what happened? 3 chicks showed up with motorcycles.
By the way, that's Steve that said that if you're writing letters in. Stephanie Reeves in the far lane, she would qualify right here. Also, Angel Sealing, we'll see her in a minute. She qualified. Karen Stouffer out of Nevada did not. But not only 1, but 3 women show up and race Pro Stock Scoots here at the Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals, a harbinger of things to come.
This is Angel Sealing. She went to the George Bryce Riding School, which is part of the Frank Hawley School in Gainesville. He was so impressed that he put her on a motorcycle. This was her qualifying effort. She not only qualifies, she nails down the number 4 spot and went on to the final 4, where Dave Schultz brought an end to a great story.
On the far lane, this is Karen Stouffer, the other lady we mentioned. She failed to qualify here, but a great effort this weekend. Trying to qualify in Pro Stock Bike was extremely tough every time out this year. Sometime all 3 of these ladies ought to call down to Texas and invite Vicky Farr over to their house, because she was one of the first ladies ever to ride a Pro Stock Bike in competition.
Well, the final round at Denver found guess who? Dave Schultz, but not guess who? Matt Hines, the rookie. On the mountain, was he up to the task? He left on him. Schultz was coming, but couldn't catch Matt Hines. A 794, the rarefied air, put him in the winner's circle for the first time.
I think he was doing that same dance Kenji was earlier on in the Drag 96 tape. Schultz leads, but the kid's kind of happy. No, I think that's the chicken dance. I'm pretty sure I've seen that before.
Okay, we go to Brainerd, Minnesota. They love the bikes in Brainerd. The parking lot was just full of motorcycles.
Schultz, Myers, semifinals. Myers needs to win if he wants to gain ground on Dave Schultz. He did, he would. Myers, 7:54, 171 miles an hour, put him into the finals against that Hines boy. Myers would break on the line. Hines wins the race, the first guy in the 90s besides Dave Schultz and John Myers to win 2 races in the same year.
That's why you don't red light. You've always got a chance that the other driver, the other rider is going to have a problem. That was proof of the pudding right there.
And Matt Hines all of a sudden throws his hat or helmet into the chase for the Winston title. Schultz, Myers at the top. Been some year for the kid from the Vance and Hines stable. Indy and the Wax Shop Pro Bike Dash final. There's that boy again, Steve.
There he is, Matt Hines up against John Myers. The race within a race. $15,000 on the line. And Byron Hines would be a proud papa because Matt did it. Hines over Myers. But Monday was a new day. It was also Labor Day. In the semifinals, this is John Myers against his teammate, the newest addition to Star Racing, Angel Sealing.
Angel going off against Myers. John still needs to keep pace. Oh, Angel cut him no slack. Almost took out the champion, and John Myers gets the win. Goes to the finals against the kid. Matt Hines has already won more Pro Stock races than his father Byron. Oh, but he wouldn't win Indy. He would not double up. He gets one of those nasty red light starts, and we all know it's Steve's fault. John Myers goes to the top of the pack over Dave Schultz. This baby's gone right down to the wire.
Well, if that was my fault, I'll take credit for what happened in Maple Grove with Angel Seelig. One of the biggest stories in motorsports in America in 1996, with George Bryce looking on the beautiful Amish countryside in Pennsylvania. The young woman from New Orleans would make history. Angel Seelig, a new national record, 7:42 at 177.
I'm just really excited. It's my first final. This was my next goal as of yesterday, and I've accomplished it. And I want to thank George and Jackie for their patience with me.
A 98-pound registered nurse, somebody better be checking her pulse. I believe that heart's beating rather quickly. Not nearly as quickly as it would be when Dave Schultz fouls out. Angel Seelig, the 5th woman to win in pro classes, 23rd woman to win ever, and George Price, the folks from Star Racing, absolutely go wild.
And she did it with a 7:37, a new record.
Schultz continues to lead the points, and Angel is really pumped. To show you what a team player she is, Angel on the right side of the screen decided to sit out the final round against her Star Racing teammate, John Myers. Myers running for the Winston Championship. Angel had the better bike on this day. Myers would have been in trouble had she staged up, but she decided to sit it out. She hopes that everybody understands the reasoning.
The crowd booed us, and we hope that they understand that this was something we had to do. We couldn't take any chances. John needs the 20-point lead that he has now, and it's because of him and his experience on this bike and on the bike that I'm riding, which is his motorcycle that they gave to me to race. And the team has worked really hard all year to get us both to where we are, and it was my gift back to them for everything they've done for me.
That would give John Myers a 22-point lead over Dave Schultz going into the final race for the bikes, the Winston Select Finals in Pomona. And that team, happy with the game plan, happier with the lead.
And that was the story coming into the Winston Select Finals until this young man, Matt Hines, crushed Angel's record with a 7:36. He needed to back it up, and this was that effort in front of his hometown crowd. Could he do it? He lowered the record to a 7:34, much to the delight of Jerry Vance, a tall guy in the background who pioneered this class.
Things did not go according to plan for John Myers, George Bryce, and the folks from Star. Round number 1, they break. Stephanie Reeves gets the win, and the title hopes are iffy.
Coming into the race, we had a 22-point lead, so, you know, now that's dead even, really. I mean, you get 20 points a round. Dave won the first round, we didn't, so it's looking good for them.
Yes, indeed. It's Dave Schultz in the right lane. Larry Cook, who 15 years ago beat Dave Schultz to claim a motorcycle championship. Could he do it right here and keep the Star hopes alive?
The early lead went to Cook. John Myers was cheering him on from the grandstands, but at the last possible second by a wheel, Dave Schultz wins the Winston title.
Dave Schultz in dominating performance runs 7.37 seconds. He goes into the final under the lights, like to punctuate his 6th Winston Championship with a win against John Smith, the guy that beat him for his only title earlier. And look at this. John Smith does it again, wins the Winston Select Finals, and there'll be a hot time in old Minnesota over the winter.
So for the narrowest of margins, Dave Schultz defeats John Myers. Matt Hines, with his 3rd place in points, joins Mike Edwards as co-Rookies of the Year.
And a late start, but a great finish for Angel.